the article that we were annotating, something changed with EBSCO, and the article went away. So we had to redo everything.
Oh, okay.
So that wasn't the fault of Hypothesis. It was just unfortunate.
Okay.
And we tried doing it with a PDF initially, and that wasn't. I know there are things that you could like use the Chrome built-in app or something like that. It was just
that's what
something for everybody to do.
That's what Troy told me to use, but yeah.
He wasn't, well, he tried using it the final week, but frankly, I was so swamped the final week, I never even looked at it. I was just like, I can't go back.
The best scenario would probably be if I saved the PDFs as a Word document and threw them into Google Docs and shared them with you guys. And then
yeah, I mean, you know how to annotate Google Docs.
Annotate with comments and track changes and that kind of thing, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound like it might work to you guys? Girls, because there's no guys in here, I don't think.
I mean, you never got into Hypothesis, did you?
No.
Yeah.
No, it was.
Yeah, I couldn't get it the first week, but it worked for me. I got into Hypothesis. I could never get to the document.
Yeah.
I got the document the second time for the Troy's document. It wasn't, as much as I didn't like FrameBench, it gave you the ability to see everybody's comments in context, and you didn't get that in Hypothesis, which is what I didn't like about it.
Right.
I mean, I finally did get it to work, but it
okay.
is nice.
So maybe what I'll try to do this week is see if I can get those all into PDF into Word document and load them into Google Docs and see if I'm able to at least get the formatting somewhat decent, and then maybe we can play with them from there. I would like to just be able to go through enough people talking about them, but if it's not going to work, maybe we restructure things and talk about that then.
Well, I could tell from the discussion with Catherine last night, we're all very much in a state of mind of we don't want to spend so much time and effort ramping up on a tool that we're not able to stay on top of the actual content.
Right.
So I love new tools, but I don't like frustration with new tools.
Right. When I've used Hypothesis, it's been really slick. And I've had very great experiences with it, but if you guys have tried it and it really stunk overall, then I'm laughing because none of the guys made it here, and Preston's the one that told me how to do this.
Yeah, Matt had emailed that he didn't have the number, so we just sent him the number.
Oh, okay.
Well, if they were sitting there with it twirling, then they had to get out and get back in, so.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. It booted me out too, and then it let me back in, so.
Well, the good news is while you were out, I think we managed to talk her out of Hypothesis.
Yeah. Okay, so expect a revamping of week number 2. Based on, yeah, hold on, I'm sending Jeremy the code too.
Jeremy's on. I just sent it.
Tammy already looked out for me, and I've already sent it on to Melissa.
Thank you, too.
I was positive that I grabbed that thing off the chat, and when I went to do Control V, there was just nothing there.
Yes.
So sorry.
It happened to me too. So I think there's something in chat sometimes.
So Jen, I think you either need to hit somebody up for the $9.99 to get to a paid account, or I could connect you with one of 2 other options that are already paid for by CMU if that also interests you.
I know. I told Tammy earlier that I have access to Mike's account. I just hate to schedule it through him, so I'm probably going to bump and do the $9.99 account. I'm concerned with access if people are away to getting into everything and loading everything, but I mean, it's probably more stable than this anyway, so.
Jen, you can set up your account so that it can work without you. They just can't record anything. So at least that's how I do it at school. We have one school account, and it doesn't matter if.
Well, no, I didn't mean recording with that. I meant just sending him all the notification emails that you have people waiting in your chat room. or you have people waiting in your
Oh, I delete those.
kind of things. Yeah,
I delete those.
yeah.
I ignore it.
So-
They can go in and out. I don't
I
care.
don't know. It kind of feels almost like, since it's his account, it feels like Big Brother watching me whenever they're going on with it. I'll just spring from my own account. It's not $10 is not going to kill me, at least this year.
It's
right.
tax deductible.
I never think of things like that. So while everybody was trying to log back in, we decided that people did not want to give Hypothesis a try, which I was telling them I've had great experiences working with it with people from all over the world on some open educational resource documents and annotating them and on blogs and that. But yeah, I'm not married to that fact that we use that. What I think my best workaround is, because I said Troy suggested using Chrome and a couple people were home. So what I'll try to do then is save the PDFs to a Word document and load them into Google and see if I can get them to work nicely that way. And if I can do that, then we should be able to comment, and it's not going to be great because the comments will be all spaced out, but it should at least kind of get us on the same page with some of it. And I'll be honest, the open annotation with those things, it was looking at the pieces of the articles and kind of identifying why they're qualitative research, what qualitative research looks like, and that because this one you're going to be kind of trying to identify these kind of things on this nice little Google Doc that I will make sure is shared with all of you, with all of your different topics. And because some of you are interested in things that work along a similar pathway, this will allow me to see the documents you're looking at picking, if any of you have kind of got similar topics, that if we need to make smaller groups, it would make sense to pair you up with those. So that's the main idea behind having you sort out this. The other thing is you're working on your literature review this week, so it's not a super heavy reading work week. It's more get your head wrapped around your literature and see how you can put it into the framework that you think you're picking based on your perspective and your framework or your interpretive lens, and looking at trying to come up with a literature review then you think you're going to be using maybe for your project. So I tried to balance things out because honestly I worked full-time. I did my dissertation at the same time with 4 kids, and I understand where you're coming from. I've spoken with a couple people about this. I understand the work-life balance and the fact that you understand you're not going to have a whole lot of life while you're doing your PhD or your DET, but having some quality of it is a really good aspect to keep in mind. So this one, you're doing your literature review. You need to pick your 7 articles to 10 articles that you think you're going to be working with. They can change. You're not going to be married to them, that you have to stick with them if you end up getting into your data and be like, oh, these aren't working. I really need to pick another set. Fine. If you need to change your research questions as you're working, that happens. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're working, that things can be pretty fluid. Okay.
Jan, just a quick question on that, if I can. So much of what some of the information we've read about qualitative goes into how you need to support in the literature review some of the philosophical or framework positions that you're taking. Mm-hmm. And since we are restricted to 10-page, and I'm one of those long writers, do we need to draw in that aspect in the lit review, or
it'll be
not for this particular class?
Probably 2 sentences or 3 sentences that talk about, this is where I'm at, this is why I'm doing it, this is the interpretive lens that I'm taking, and that's going to be it. You're going to have one paragraph. Your position statement that you're writing out to me, that's the 2 or 3 pages, is going to end up being condensed down to probably a nice paragraph.
But nothing else supporting that in the literature review to help defend it to the new reader?
Well, your literature review is going to support what you want to do. And it ends up being this theoretical sandwich where you have, this is where I'm at and this is why I'm coming here. Here's the whole big broad field. I'm picking this piece of this field, and I'm picking this piece of this piece of this piece, and then keeping on going down until you get to the meat, which is the study that you do. And it's in between your bread and your lettuce and your condiments and all these other things that kind of narrow it down. It's almost like, I think it's more of an hourglass bit. Somebody used a sandwich framework, and I really like that. And then you're going to then build it back out. This is what I did. This is what I found. This is how it ties to the big world. And those are your bread pieces. Is your big world on either side of it. So with that and how you write about that is how you're going to tie it to the framework that you're coming from. Like if you're coming from a social justice perspective, or you're coming from a genderqueer perspective, I should know that by the people that you're picking, because what they are saying is going to support what you're doing. So it's going to mean that your initial 5 articles that you pick during that second week, which is why it's not super heavy on everything, is that you may have to pick some new literature that really speaks more to what you think you're going to be talking about as you're moving through. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I just thinking again, it said in some of the different materials to support the philosophical or the framework position in your literature review, basically describing those different philosophies. And if that gobbles up more space and we don't need that for this.
You're not going to describe to me what an ethnography is and why you're picking ethnography and all of that.
Okay.
You're going to say, these are the pieces that I have. You're going to have a little statement saying, I feel that this is an ethnographic perspective that approach that I'm taking, because I want to look at how the students are working together in here. The students are working together and the culture of learning that they're developing within the classroom on this project. And that's going to tell me that you've taken your pieces and put them together on a line. Yeah. So write it long and then chop, 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 chop.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. Okay, so to get you out of here without too much more time here and answer all your questions, I'm going to go back to here. So week two is a very big work in progress now. So let me figure out how we're going to do that and what we're going to do with it, since hypothesis is not going to work really well. And maybe we'll talk more about what Tammy just brought up, how your literature review ties to what you want to look at and how it kind of fits into it, instead of even doing the crowdsourcing kind of looking at the documents and that as much. You're going to fill in this little, like I said, the chart, so you can see other people that are working on literature that seems there, and so that I can look down and I can say, you thought it was an ethnography, but it's not an ethnography. You thought it was a grounded theory. It's a great example of grounded theory. And I can kind of get an idea how you're tying your approach to that. And this may be wrong of me, but if it's a case, then I'll have like extra special tutorial help while you're doing your dissertation if you do a qualitative study, because the 2 classes that I took when I sat in class and I was talked to about all of the different approaches and going through all the different ways that they frame it, really it was nice background information, and it didn't mean diddly squat until I started doing my own work and looking at what I was doing, and then be like, oh, I'm really not doing this, I'm doing an ethnography. I'm not really doing this, I'm just doing case study and putting these pieces together later. So we, in the interest of getting you doused in qualitative methods this summer, I think being able to do the research is something that I need to be able to be here to help you with, and looking at how you're tying it to your method is something that we can work on as you are going, and that you can read more up on when you decide, okay, this is what I want to do with my dissertation or my IIP project. This is what I want to do. This is how I see it fitting into the approach. I'm going to backwards map it onto what approach I'm going to use. And I think that'll be more valuable for your time than delving deep into these and having you read an ethnography. I had to read an ethnography and write a 20-page paper on it. That's not good use of your time. The best way to do it, to learn it, is to do it. And I would rather spend a time with that. So anyway, that's what that is. Designing your study. Focusing activities, those kind of things, they're still coming. I have them. I just haven't uploaded them on here. You're reading a lot this week. It's quite a few pages to read. The focusing study is actually a 2-page document. It asks you some questions. What are your research questions? What do you want to look at? How do you see it tying to your data? How do you see it being analyzed? What do you kind of think you're maybe going to get out of it? There's a set of questions. There's a little table. I'm going to get you that document. You'll fill it out. You'll send it to me. We'll go back and forth if we need to. Okay. This is your draft one. Later on, close to the end, when you start to get ready to do your analysis, then we'll be doing this a second time, and I'll be expecting much more out of you. Right now, I want you to have an overview of what you think you might want to be able to do without knowing much about it at all. Okay. Just kind of your gut feeling on what you think you should be doing. And we'll work with that and we'll tweak that. And then by the end of this week, you should have a couple research questions, and you're going to diagram your interest. There's a picture of it in Miles and Huberman, and I have that loaded up into the Google Doc folder for you. Week 4, you're going to start working on your IRB application. They are super fast and they're super awesome to work with. I just had to get an IRB approved this week, and they were awesome. I'll walk you through what it is. This is week 4, so we will be meeting this week. In the meeting, I'm going to walk you through the IRB, see what kind of questions you have and what problems, and I'm going to take a look over them. I think that I have to turn them all in, and I'm working with the guy that works there on how he wants this done, because he does not want everyone turned in individually with you guys as the primary investigator. I have to be the primary investigator, and you are my students because I'm supervising you. So we are working out the details on how that will happen, but I want you to have the experience of doing an IRB, and I want you to have the experience of working through the questions that it asks you and how you actually can take care of that as you're doing this. The IRB is not due this week. I want to have a draft copy of it so that I can see where you're starting to have some problems with it. Here's all the forms. There's a nice little folder there with them all in there. You don't need to use them all. My IRB that I turned in this time had 3 papers. Okay.
I have a really quick question.
Sure.
I'm at a different university, so does that mean I need to do an IRB at my university and at CMU, or just at CMU?
Are you researching on your students there?
Well, let's just say there's summer classes and they're available, so probably.
Okay. I will talk to Robert at the IRB office here and see, because I have to be the primary investigator and you are my student learning. I do not know that you will have to do it at your university, but we may have to talk to them.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll work it out.
Jen, I'm in the same situation, and I'm in Canada. So.
Okay.
And ditto for me.
I am thinking based on what has happened in the past at Penn State. Penn State was the primary IRB because I'm here and you are my students and I'm supervising you with it, and they did not require IRB at the other institution. I could be wrong. I'll talk to the guy here and I will get back to you early before this has to happen, that you can talk to your people there and see how they want it handled. Sometimes it can just be a memorandum because, to be honest, I have a lot of pressure from, well, initially people did not want me to make you guys do the IRB. They just wanted it to be like a kind of a paper understanding of the process and that it's all going to be covered on this nice little blanket thing. But if you guys get something great out of this project, you need to be able to do something with it. And if you don't have the IRB, then really your hands are tied. You really can't do anything that disseminates it to any population. And I've seen some really great studies come out of a class like this. Not mine. Mine stunk. But, I've seen really great ones. My project was good. My results were very, very non-impactful on any field. What I thought was going to happen did not happen. Okay, so this is week 4. That'll be starting on your IRB. We'll talk through it. We'll go over all of it, and you'll be working on it. This will be basically the design of your study while you are doing your IRB. You have to be able to think through the procedures that you might have, what you want to actually look at, what kind of stuff you're going to be collecting. So then this week, the next weekend, week 5, you are going to be doing a little observation. You're going to figure out how in your project you're going to build in these requirements, which is 4 hours of observation in some way, shape, or form. That can be video observation. That can be observation of a class or a situation or a scenario where you're taking field notes and writing it. I do primarily video work. So if any of you want to have a little session where you talk about video work and how to do that, then we can do that as well. keep going, see here quick here. Interview protocols, how to manage that. I am working on getting a license for the software we'll be using for qualitative working together to code and that on some video. You're going to have to either audio or video record your interviewing. You are going to need about an hour of that. You're going to have to transcribe 20 minutes of that for your final project. It'll get tacked on as an annotation. It can be 20 minutes scattered through 6 hours of interviewing if you really want to do that much time. But these hours will be however much time you need to do. You need to have 20 minutes turned in, whether you actually use all 20 minutes of those or not. I'm sorry. That's one of the few places that I feel like I'm making you do more work than you might need, but it's a skill. And we'll talk more about this. I like InkScribe the best, but you can do whatever. Those are just a couple different ways you can do your transcription and collect your video and that. And then I have another product that is called VNote that a friend of mine developed. It's really, really good analytics software, and I'll be getting you guys a copy of it. Well, you'll have a copy for free, but I'll be sharing some video out with you. Your protocol is just, these are the questions I think I'm going to ask, how you're going to introduce it, and then some hopeful ways that you're going to get you to where you want them to go in the interview. And we'll be practicing a little bit in class that week, talking between each other, practicing talking about your interview questions because they're really awkward the first time or two you try them out. Week 7, data management, how you're going to manage all of that, where you're going to store it, how you're going to do all of these kind of things, collecting your artifacts, what I consider artifacts, and I guess in week 6, I'll give you some examples of that since I won't talk to you in week 7. How you can analyze photographs, how you can use screenshots as a way to be a data source, to collect evidence through those kind of ways with that. You're going to have artifacts of some kind. It can be journaling that people do, a reflection that they write that's a Word document or a handwritten document. It can be pictures somebody draws, diagrams that they fill out, concept maps, anything like that that you feel through the basis of developing your study that works. You have to have some kind of document, artifacts. Week 8, this is the last week of the structured kind of stuff. We're going to talk about coding and analysis. I will be working with you through some video, coding some video with you as a group, coding some documents with you as a group, developing themes from these so you can see the whole process. And then you have independent work. Your 4 weeks of independent work are weeks 9, 10, 11, and 12. That's where you meet with me in week 9. You'll meet with me sometime in week 10, 11, or 12. You can meet with me multiple times every week if necessary. I hope not, though. But those are all built into the scheduling. You can pick your times so that it works for you. I've already X'd those off my calendar so that they fit into that. This is when you're going to be collecting your data. You're going to be coding your data. You're going to be triangulating it and saying, this person talked about how they collaborate in the interview. And then in their written journal entry, they also talked about the benefits of collaborating, having a peer partner to work with. And then over here, when I was watching how they were working in the classroom, they didn't actually talk to each other at all. So you have these pieces that you're looking at, and then maybe this weird little thing that didn't happen how you wanted it is what you actually want to focus your paper on. But how you pick these pieces of data to support your claims that you're making in a qualitative way is what we'll be looking at this week, or time while you're working on these in our little interviews. We'll be working through your data and giving you support for you as you're doing that. Week 13 is an odd week. Catherine will be meeting with you then. I'm sorry, but I'm going to try and do small groups so you have some more flexibility on when you schedule. You're going to do a little concept map. You're going to say, this is my claim. Here are my 3 pieces of data that match with that. We're going to talk about it. This is going to be really sketchy. This is going to be, here's where I think I'm going with my final paper, and these are the woohoo things that I think I have at the end. And we're going to say, seriously, how do you put those 2 pieces together? Or, that's really good. I see very clearly how you're doing that, and give you a little bit of feedback while you're writing your paper. This is a week to write. And I mean, once your data is collected and analyzed, you can be writing the whole 9 through 12 if you want. But I wanted to give you time to do those things. 14, your paper's due. Okay. This is due on Friday. That gives me a little bit of time extra to grade them before the end of the 9 weeks, or before the end of the semester. I'm still in high school mode here. We'll talk more about this as it goes. I'm willing to walk through it with you. Here are the pieces that are in your paper. There are 7 chunks I'm going to be looking for. I would like those made as headings so they're very clear where you think that they fit into your paper. 10-point font, that'll ease your, some of you long writers a little bit there. 7 to 10 pages. You can have as much as you can put into a chart or a table in your appendice. So, you know, you can take a whole lot of stuff and put them in charts. I have learned, because they don't count towards your 2,000 words for AERA presentations. So being a long writer, that's what I do. Everything goes in a chart. You're going to work with this with your theoretical framework, seeing how it all fits together, citing it APA style. Preliminary implications. This is what I think I have. That'll be the stuff you were talking about in week 13. And I'll be honest, having something that you think is a no finding is sometimes a very, very powerful thing. So don't panic. You don't have to get these great findings at the end that you think are like groundbreaking. Sometimes it's just a shift in perspective. This is what literature says happened. This is what actually did happen with mine. Here's how it connects between the two. But really, there's not much connection between it. This is what I saw. And you don't have to have a full, 2 or 3 pages of your discussion at the end that ties it all together. I just want to see the starting ground, that this is what you got, and this is how you think it ties to literature. And that's why I think it'll fit in your 7 to 10 pages still, even if you're somebody that writes pretty long. A reflection with it, I said 1 to 2 paragraphs addressing these questions. I am willing to, if necessary, let those be part of your appendices if necessary. Okay, so if you're really, really coming close to your 10 pages and you're not done talking about your study, your reflection can go at the end. So I'm willing to give you that, or you can tuck it in there and have it right in there with your 7 to 10 pages. I just didn't want to have 11 30-page papers to read and try and, like I said, everybody will have a different data set. If I gave you 10 papers or 10 articles and I said, everybody has to write with these, one, it would be worthless for you guys, but it would make it easier for me. But having 11 different sets of data and 11 different topics, that's the only way I think that it can really feasibly work within this time frame. Week 15, your paper will be turned in. I would like to have a synchronous session, and I would like for us to be able to present our work. I will give you some examples of a PowerPoint that I've done to present my work. I'll give you examples of the poster that I've done for different presentations and different things like that. If any of you are close to campus and you want to come to my office, you can see my posters on the wall covering the places where the command strips pulled the paint off anyway. So these are things that are going to give us a brief overview of it. You're going to talk between 3 and 5 minutes. I'll have a buzzer. You're done at 5. You have to have something to show us. It can be a Word document that you have built a little graphic that shows kind of how you think your theoretical framework pulls together with all of these things. Or it can be a big full-blown poster. It can be a whole PowerPoint with 5 or 6 slides, whatever. 5 minutes, you're done. We're going to talk to you back a couple minutes, block of time, 8 minutes, out of there. Okay? If you have other questions, we can stay after, but I promised some people, including Ming, that I could keep everything to an hour and get you out in an hour. And that's what it'll be. So, what do you think? What do you want to know?
I think we're at Dave at the moment.
I have one thing, and it's not really for an answer, but just something to be thinking about. Everything that I'm interested in has to do with how people use a mobile device, and I am already starting to panic about observing and videotaping people sitting with a mobile phone in their hands. So I'm going to need to find some way to capture what I want to capture from use. And I've started looking at articles and things, but I'm going to need help with that.
Okay. I've done mobile research, and one of my friends, their dissertation was on mobile, and I've read a lot of his stuff too.
Okay.
So here's one thought to take your question and show people how this could be done. Your hour of video could be interviewing someone that uses their mobile phone. It could be talking to them about how they search, what they would search. It could be that you ask them to do a structured task for you, that you say, here's a key term, any way you want to do it, find this information, and watching how they do that. It could be as simple as the interview, and then you sit in the library and you watch how many people are working on the computer and pick up their phone and look at something. It could be sitting in a McDonald's, watching people in there and looking at how many times they actually use their phone during a conversation. Even if you don't know what they're doing, looking at that kind of pattern of behavior can sometimes give you some insight into what's going on. Now, you'd have to tweak it to your research questions, but that's one way that I could see that playing out very easily.
Okay.
Yeah, and your observations, we can work with that. If you're doing mobile work like that, you may have to do more interview and less observation.
Okay.
We'll make it balance it out so it's even for people. In my opinion, anyway, it'll be kind of evened out work.
Yeah.
It makes really a lot of sense for that. And the online, some of you that are looking at researching online, if you can have them screen capture, while they're searching for things, or while they're having a discussion, or while they're working on some kind of research, that can count as observation.
Okay.
Good night, Jeremy. So here's where I can see that happening.
All right.
Okay.
I'll let you know if I run into a mismatch.
Yeah, we can talk plenty of time.
Okay.
But I know it can work. I promise.
Right.
Anybody else have a question?
So Jennifer, this video observation, can it be separate from our research, or does it have to be related to our research?
It needs to tie to your research.
Okay.
So you don't have to do video observation. You can just observe them as they're working. If you have your kids face to face in class, you could be observing them in class and seeing if they use a resource that you give them. Or you could watch how they're working with a prompt that you give them that utilizes that resource. There's lots of ways around it. We will talk as you develop your research questions, but I think I can make it work for you. I promise. Any scenario you guys can come up with, we'll make it work. Anybody else? Yes, it is like speed dating. That I almost said for week 13, I almost said this is speed dating with your findings, because yes, very much so. Here's a little bit of what I'm doing. Bingo, keep moving on. That way you get practice talking about your research and talking with a researcher voice and not a practitioner voice, because all of you are working in your field. So you need to be able to take that this is what I do as a living hat off and put on the research hat and say, this is how I'm looking at it for research. So yeah, you don't get that enough in an online program. So as many times as I can, you're going to be doing it. Elevator pitch, elevator pitch, elevator pitch. Any more? No? Hey, only 2 minutes, and since we had to jump rooms, I don't think that's too bad. If any of you want to stick around and talk to me more after this, that's all I had to go over with you. I didn't mean it to take quite that long, but I'm a long talker as well as a long writer, so feel free to tell me to shut it off anytime you want. All right? Otherwise, have a good night, and email me, call me, whatever, and if you want to stick around in a few moments here, when everybody else exits out, I have 5 minutes left on this time frame, and we can always open another window.